The hardest seasons of your life are not interruptions to your growth. They are the engine of it. I know that is not what it feels like from the inside. From the inside, it feels like stagnation. It feels like loss. It feels like the life you were building is being dismantled piece by piece, and there is nothing you can do but watch it happen and absorb the weight of each piece as it falls. From the inside, hard times feel like the opposite of building. They feel like demolition. And sometimes that is exactly what they are. Not the end of something, but the clearing of space for something that could not have been built on the old foundation. Not destruction, preparation. The hard times are building you, right now, in ways you cannot see from inside them, in ways that will only become visible from the other side, when you look back and understand, finally, completely, with the clarity that only distance provides, that the person you became through the hardship was not built in spite of the hardship, they were built by it. Welcome to Motivation Daily. Today we are going inside the hardest chapter you have ever lived and showing you what it is actually doing. Think about what pressure does to coal. Under ordinary circumstances, coal is just coal, a useful but unremarkable material. But subject it to extreme heat and pressure over millions of years, and it becomes a diamond. The hardest natural substance on Earth, the most brilliant, the most valuable. The transformation is not gentle. The transformation is violent and slow and requires conditions that coal, if it could feel, would experience as unbearable. But the diamond that emerges from those conditions possesses properties that no comfortable, pressureless existence could have produced. The hardship was not the enemy of the diamond. The hardship was the diamond-making process. You are in the pressure right now. You are being compressed. You are being heated. You cannot see the diamond because you are still inside the process, but the process is happening. The transformation is underway, and the person being built inside this pressure is going to possess qualities, a resilience, a depth, a clarity about what actually matters, a capacity for genuine empathy toward others who are suffering that the comfortable version of you never could have developed. Think about Nelson Mandela. 27 years in prison. Not a comfortable prison, Robben Island, where he broke rocks in a lime quarry under a sun that permanently damaged his eyesight. 27 years of confinement, of separation from his family, of watching his children grow up without him, of a world continuing without him while he remained in a cell. By any accounting, those 27 years should have produced a broken man, a bitter man, a man so consumed by grievance and loss that any capacity for leadership would have been burned away by the decades of injustice. Instead, they produced one of the greatest leaders in the history of the world. Not despite the imprisonment, because of it. Because 27 years of confinement forced Mandela into the deepest possible confrontation with who he was, what he believed, and what he was willing to give his life for. Because the patience that leading a nation through its most dangerous transition required was a patience that could only have been built through decades of waiting. Because the capacity to choose reconciliation over retaliation, the decision that prevented South Africa from tearing itself apart, was a capacity forged in the fire of a suffering that most people cannot even imagine. The hard time built the leader. The prison built the president. The suffering built the man who could hold an entire fractured nation together with the force of a character that would not have existed without the suffering that formed it.
Or think about Brené Brown. Before she became one of the most watched TED speakers in history, before the books and the research and the global conversation she started about vulnerability and courage, she went through what she calls her own breakdown, a period of profound personal crisis triggered by the very research she was conducting. She had spent years studying vulnerability and shame, and the data she was collecting confronted her with her own defenses so relentlessly that she eventually could not maintain them. She fell apart. She sought therapy. She went through the specific, uncomfortable, deeply humbling process of being the researcher who becomes the subject of her own research. And what emerged from that breakdown was the insight that changed everything. that vulnerability is not weakness, but the most accurate measure of courage. That the willingness to be seen, to risk being wrong, to step into uncertainty without armor is not a liability, but the foundation of every meaningful human connection and every creative act worth doing. She could not have found that insight in comfort. She found it in the hard time that forced her to live it rather than just study it. The hard time built the message. The breakdown built the breakthrough. Now, let me speak to the specific texture of what is being built in you right now, because hard times build different things in different people depending on how the person responds to them. They can build bitterness or wisdom. They can build walls or depth. They can build the kind of hardness that closes a person off from the world, or the kind of strength that makes them capable of holding space for others who are suffering. The hardship itself does not determine which of these gets built. The response does. Think about two people going through identical financial collapses. One emerges from it bitter about money, fearful of risk, closed off from the possibility of ever trying again. The hardship built walls. The other emerges from it with a clarity about what truly matters that they never had when the money was there, a resourcefulness developed through necessity, a humility that makes them more teachable and more connected to other people. The hardship built depth. Same hardship, completely different outcomes. The difference was entirely in how each person chose to be in relation to what was happening to them, whether they let it make them harder in the brittle sense or stronger in the flexible sense, whether they extracted the lessons or only absorbed the loss. So, here is the question, the only one that matters in this moment. What is this hard time trying to build in you? Not what is it taking from you, you already know that list intimately. What is it building? What is the patience it is developing that you did not have before? What is the empathy it is creating for others that your comfortable years never produced? What is the clarity it is forcing about your own values, your own priorities, your own non-negotiables that the easier seasons kept conveniently blurry? Look for those things. Name them. Not as a way of pretending the hard time is not hard, it is hard, but as a way of making sure that when this season passes, as it will pass, you do not come out the other side having simply endured it. You come out the other side having been genuinely, permanently, irreversibly built by it. The hard times are not the enemy of the life you want. They are building the person who can live it. Let them build you. Share this with someone who is in the middle of a hard time and needs to know it is not wasted. Subscribe to Motivation Daily. We show up every day because the building never stops. Drop a comment and tell me, what is one thing your hardest season has built in you that you are grateful for? Name it. That gratitude is the proof that the process is working. Let's go.